Start the recording now. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. Hi, Laura. Good seeing you again.
Hey, Julian.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm
Hey.
still Louise's name. Sorry. I miss you guys.
I know, it's been too long.
Exactly.
Super.
I'm looking forward for the news.
Well,
I
you
see
guys,
you were experimenting a lot.
you guys are on time. Almost everyone is here already. We'll give another moment here, but yeah, we've got folks from all over the world today, which is awesome. That's why we do the early morning here in California. And lots of stories to tell. Let's wait another minute. So just Aaron, I didn't quite hear it. Remind me where are you in the world you are?
Silicon Valley.
Oh, okay. You're in the right place. Maybe you can afford it. I'm about 2 hours outside of San Francisco, up in the hills. It's a little town called Auburn. And I'll be driving to the Bay Area this afternoon, pretty much go down every week to work with Bill. And tomorrow night, I'm actually speaking at an event at Stanford University about the convergence of augmented reality and artificial intelligence, which will be fun. It's something I have thought a whole heck of a lot about, and we've been building, so it's fun to do that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and dig in and see how other people go. So the agenda, I didn't create a slide to show through the agenda, but the things to talk about are just some of the big picture, what's been going on at Flow. Then wanted to show you our Oculus app, what that actually looks like. It's a native app on Oculus. We can even talk about that it's going to be on Magic Leap as well. So I can show you demos of those. I can show you 2 extensions to our AI that are coming. One of which is much more ability to edit the presentation just by speaking to it. Where every few days we add on our internal build, every few days we add another function that gives you another control over the environment just through your voice, which is pretty fun and exciting to watch. And also to introduce you our internal name is the Flow Interpreter, but it's basically using Chat GPT's advanced data analysis, formerly called Code Interpreter, so that you can manipulate your data in real time, in headsets, again, just using your voice. And we're pretty excited about the capabilities of that. I think it's a huge change from spending time in Excel or in R scripting or anywhere else before you even get to Flow. We can pull a lot of that, a lot of those capabilities directly into headset, which is kind of wild, actually. So are there other things? I think there was a couple of questions folks had. Aaron mentioned and Laura mentioned that you had some questions, and we can start with those if you'd like, or wait till the end.
Sure. What APIs are you using with voice? I guess to do that querying, because I was watching the demos. I know you gave me a demo in July. Sorry, I haven't gone on the platform yet. But you're manipulating like a data visualization where I think one of your staff like clicks on a point with a controller, and then you're able to, query with Chat GPT. Are you just calling Chat GPT's API? Like, what's the other voice to, I guess, like it isn't quite text, it's actually like the data points and the visualization, just because I know for Oculus and their SDK for MetaQuest 3, it's different than what they use internally for their AI teams. So yeah.
Yes. So we're not using anything specific to any headset or to Meta. So what we've done is when you start to speak to it, we use OpenAI's Whisper API to recognize the voice. We found that to be the most reliable of any speech recognition. And then after we have that voice translated to text, we have a whole backend server that it's using something called LangChain, is the open source environment, which gives us on the server the ability to swap in most all of the large language models. Right now, we've only been using Chat GPT 3.5 and Chat GPT 4, but we can swap in a Llama model, or almost all of the models have support here within that LangChain open source, so we don't even need to do a lot of complicated work to get access to different models. Then in addition, we're using Hugging Face, which is a system to create vector databases. So you can upload a PDF in our system and create a vector database, which means that the ChatGPT will only look at the document that you uploaded in order for its responses. And if it doesn't find a response there, it tells you that it's not in the document, and then it prompts you back and says, hey, these are the kinds of things that are in the document you might want to ask me about. So that's great. And then after doing all that, it spits the answer back it streams the answer back to Flow. And if it's an edit presentation kind of query, we match that up to an internal function where ChatGPT basically generates a block of JSON, which we can then interpret and use to manipulate the swarms. So I really should have a diagram of all of that, easy to describe, but that shows you the kind of the whole pipeline. Aaron, does that help answer your question? And I can answer more.
Yes, I think he told me some of this before, but I was like parked parking lot. I wasn't on a video. I'm actually on desktop. So yeah, and then LangChain is something I'm working with. So thank you for all of that. I think information architecture would help, but I know you spent a lot of time just building out the actual demos and applications for this. It's so impressive. Thanks.
Thanks. I have been yesterday I was actually building a bunch of architectural diagrams, because we're applying for a SBIR contract, and that's a lot of documentation needed. But I built other ones that were more complicated about the future instead of the past, so I don't have that one. Laura, did you have a question?
Not yet, but I'm very excited to see some demos. Maybe then after that I come up with questions.
Great. Good afternoon, Ozzy.
Hi there. Sorry, I'm a little bit late.
No worries. So I'm just launching into a variety of things. So I am going to, because I want to show a number of things, I'm going to do it by sharing videos instead of live demos. If you'd like some live demos, we can switch to that, but especially in headset is a point. So first, I'll get set here. First, let me just address some changes at Flow. So the big one, for those of you who know Michael DiBenigno, he's had a baby and also decided to take some time, step back from Flow, and focus on other things for a while, which we just think is really great for him. And as we've really focused more, before I go on, hey, Lawrence, welcome.
Hello, good morning. How are you doing, Jason?
Good. So one of the things that we have done recently is really refocus on our core value in the world, which is, I think, in headset. So being able to experience data visualization floating over the table in front of you in a likely in a collaborative meeting, for, in this case, it seems like more use cases in large and maybe very large enterprises, is where we're the most unique in the world. So data storytelling is important, and we still are huge fans of data storytelling, and that's really more of the focus that we had when we stepped back from headsets. But in the last year, augmented reality and mixed reality has gotten moved along so far that it really starts to have the experience actually matches the vision we've had in our minds since starting the company 7 years ago, which is, you know, to be on, to have these new kinds of experiences and really build these mental models in the most powerful way. So we made a conscious decision to step deeper into headset related use cases and consequently into bigger, you know, enterprises for the moment. As more headsets get onto the market, that will change again. And we are looking forward to the Apple Vision Pro, which I think even may not sell a gazillion headsets, it will change the culture around what's acceptable and whether it's cool or uncool to be engaged in virtual reality, mixed reality. Apple calls it spatial computing. So that kind of a focus didn't inspire Michael as much as the broader use case of data storytelling. So that's another part of his decision to step back. But in some ways, I think what it has done is really helped us focus much more on our, you know, core use case, on solving real fundamental problems, core problems, and solving pain points for our customers. And so that has, we have had a really exciting time building that functionality, or, you know, just marketing and functionality that goes together to really help describe how that works. So let me show you a slide that tells you just a little bit more about the pain points there. Pull this up. So you may have noticed, if you're a long time, if you go to Flow Immersive at all, you'll notice that we have a new website that gets us closer down this, more closely reflects this story. And here is one of, we have two, you know, kind of, I think, two core use cases. This is more of the, where a lot of people found us, which is on TikTok, which is the AR videos. So we still consider that a core use case. But the other one, which seems to be resonating very well with the large enterprises, is managing risk. So if you think about the world's cities, for example, we've had a number of cities and planning departments and organizations that help cities contact us because environmental risks for cities are a big deal. And one of the things that is particularly difficult is gaining a lot of stakeholder approval to make decisions and spend money for mitigations, et cetera. So Flow is really good at getting people around the table and having that deep conversation that can help change ideas and minds. So environmental risks is one that we've identified. Project risks, turns out Flow is really good for looking at project management. If you've got people and their interactions, you've got timelines, you've got financial impacts, you've got dependencies, you've got sometimes geographic implications, you've got data with so many different dimensions and ways of understanding and planning, that project management is actually an interesting one. Financial risk, on some level, every financial bit of modeling is about risks. So that's interesting. Supply chain, human factor, and cyber risks. So by human factor, cyber risks, I think we're focusing a little bit more on the people involved and your processes as opposed to just looking at live network feeds. I think there's a lot of software that does live network monitoring and analysis, and we don't need to compete with that. But if you're familiar with the huge hack that happened in Las Vegas last month, that wasn't you know, a brute force or anything like that. That was just a human doing the wrong thing and giving out an access code to someone they shouldn't have. So understanding your environment for cyber risk is an interesting play there. So I think that that kind of sums up my conversation about the direction Flow has been moving toward, and we have a lot of very large proposals in front of large organizations to make this switch, you know, financially official as well. Questions on that? Comments?
I have a question just about product management, or you said project management. What kind of customers are looking at that particularly? Is it like government, large enterprises, individuals for like daily planning, or is it more like looking at not daily planning, weekly or monthly, but future projections for entire like subsectors?
Yes, to all of the above. The biggest input, I think, from that has been from the consultancies that are managing large technical and implementation projects. So I think project management has been mostly a request from consultancies at this point. You'll notice that all of these, while they can have a component to be, you know, a presentation, they also have an equally strong component to be a data use case for operational management of data. And we are definitely moving in that direction, certainly financial. Every time you look at the Flow, to have it be current financial data is an obvious use case.
Cool, thanks.
Other questions before we launch into AI? Actually, before we do AI, let's launch into the. I'll pause. Questions? No. Okay. Let's look at some demos of the new Unity-based application environment. Okay, so I'm going to play this.
March, and this was the summer from hell for a lot of the planet. You can see that.
Actually, let me see if.
First, let's just take a look at.
I didn't share it the right way.
Get this the 3D where we can really see it. So on this chart here, each dot is a month, and it is the anomaly, which means how different was that month's temperature from the norm. The average temperature is the 0 line, which is defined as basically the 20th century. The older years, back to 1850, we're all below that average.
Okay, so what are we showing here that's new and interesting? First of all, as a native app for Oculus and here in the future Magic Leap, we have gotten much more support from the headset manufacturers than we ever got being a WebXR solution. We can all complain about it, but that's just the way it is. And the response has been fabulous. As soon as we announced the Oculus app, the headset manufacturers came calling, and the many organizations that distribute VR and AR applications have, you know, asked us to participate in their portals and be part of the conversation. So just as even if it wasn't different technically, as a business decision for the industry, that seems to have been a really good one. I'll pause just to note, I'm looking at September. This is global temperatures. September was insane this year. So I call this Flow the summer from hell, and it's got the latest data. You can see, I've been posting some videos about it, and you can see the Flow itself on our website as well. So what you're looking at here is actually just a screen capture of the actual Flow itself. So in headset, you can record your avatar story which is what we call it. You can record yourself presenting the flow, presenting the story, and then it automatically plays back when a user comes to this flow, as long as they're in solo mode. It doesn't automatically play when you're in a multi-user meeting, but the idea that you can still walk around the data, you can actually still click and interact with the data while you have the presenter walking you through it. I kind of call it the dream sequence. It's kind of like Harry Potter Pensieve or something. You're walking through a 3D world where there's still someone there who doesn't recognize your presence, but you can interact with everything in the room, even though that person is speaking to you. And of course, you can also pause it. You don't have to look at that when it's there. So first step, questions about, does anybody have questions about the avatar story mechanism?
It's really cool. Can you actually rewind back? I love how, I mean, first of all, it's beautiful. This is definitely an upgrade since you last demoed with me in July, but I mean, each data visualization type is different, but putting them side by side together, I mean, that's impressive. Can you fast forward to the part where, I guess it's a green one?
This spot here?
Well, it actually expands, right? When it turns green and it has that other kind of shape. Yeah, that's so different. I haven't seen that before.
Right. So this is, we call this the 3D scatter plot. So here I'm just kind of introducing the scatter plot. I mean, the 3D radar chart. Here I'm just introducing that, you know, around the radius you have the months, and the distance from the center point, from this center line, is the change or the anomaly in the temperature. And it goes back all the way to 1850. So each row is a year. And I'll just pause it there. You can see these last couple of months, the gap, the spike in temperature these last few months this summer it's just the scariest bit of climate data I've ever seen. Yeah, the 3D radar chart's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's actually the one after this that I was interested in, because I love this transformation, but when you go side to side between charts, it's even more impressive.
So we're two on the same screen at the same time?
Yeah, so that's what's really different here. But I think you had one on, it's to my right. So it's outside of the line chart. It's when it turns green, and that's the one I had on, actually.
Well, so what I'm doing here is I'm actually filtering the data by selecting the legend. And again, here I just filtered to show only the Septembers, so you can see the spike. Pretty fun. All right, is there? Oh. Yeah, the avatar system. So what we're doing, so this is using, let's talk about avatars just for a moment. So what we're doing with the avatars is using the Meta or Oculus Avatar SDK for the Oculus headsets. And we're currently implementing Ready Player Me avatars everywhere else. So the first one of those that will come out will be using that for Magic Leap. And our multi-user environment, based on which platform you're on, will give you as much fidelity as possible. So connecting the Oculus app to a web user, the Oculus app will be seeing seeing these avatars, and the web user will seeing our lame avatars for a while, and eventually we'll have probably Ready Player Me in there. So we think avatars are particularly important as part of this focus to really taking advantage of the website, of the headset environment, instead of just doing a website.
Thank you. You actually answered my question that I was going to ask. That is awesome. But I have another question. Like that was my first thought. Like, oh, well, these avatars, they seem familiar. Like as an Oculus user, I find it, you know, an averagized, basically like a median mean avatar that I keep seeing on different platforms, because I came from Altspace, and for me this design is very pleasant, because that one was more primitive but more based on social interaction, because the eye tracking and the hand tracking, that really gives you the feeling of a body presence of a person and their body language. The second question that I had is actually, you talked about recording yourself. Is it something like a ghost recording, like when you race in different games? It's like the guide that takes you around the solo version of the presentation. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Or is it something
Yeah.
like a mirror, like in VR chat, where you can have project a huge mirror, like a wall size, and record yourself while you're talking to yourself? So the first option, right?
Actually, both. So in
Awesome.
headsets, I won't try to do the demo right now, but in headset, you know, select avatar story, and you what you should do is walk yourself around or turn the world such that you're facing the camera. Oh, hey, nice to see you. Face the camera, and there's actually a separate render. There's actually a video screen that represents the user you're speaking to, so you can see yourself presenting as you're recording yourself, kind of like a selfie mode. We want to imitate the way you create a selfie on your phone, a selfie video. And so you actually can see yourself presenting, and you know which way to look, hopefully, at least where you expect the user to be, because they might not be there. And so, yeah, you just present, and it's recording all of your movements and everything you do, all of your interactions. And then when the user comes in to play back, they're experiencing the same thing you just saw in the video. They're seeing you present, but you can still walk around. And it's, yeah, the ghost sequence, or I call it a dream sequence, is exactly it. It's I think it's really fun, and it's interesting. We're not the only ones doing this, but I've only seen one or two other people think about this as a really powerful use case. And for us to tell stories about the data is still really important. So it's pretty cool.
I agree with the previous speaker when I was trying to imagine in my head who's the target audience for this product, or like as a user. For me as an educator, it's interesting because I like numbers, and I think that this is the way I see them in my head, but it would be amazing to visualize something for other people, or take bigger numbers. For example, I would love to know more about markets of different countries, and like social interactions, and what's going on in the world in terms of relocation. A lot of people have become nomads, and they live all around the world. The world. Russians have changed a lot of microbiome of different cities of different countries, because they relocated and they created their own communities and their own services, and like they exchange, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. And I wonder if my subjective feelings and the actual data is going to be similar. So there's a deeper question: where do you get the data? Like, I wonder what's going to be the back end of all this visualization. Like, how do I count the numbers? What's the file format? How do I gather and sort that data? And so all sorts of other questions that I have, but it's more of a data analysis.
Well, we are one of the agenda items is to talk about our new Flow AI data analysis system, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. So you're asking the right questions. In terms of where you get the data, well, somebody does have to gather some data somewhere, and that's not part of our data pipeline. Let me share another video here. So you may have seen this. This has done pretty well on social media. So this is again in the Oculus app, with both for co-located augmented reality users and remote VR users in this case. So this is a use case of financial data. Happen to have a really nice sample portfolio from 2020, which had Tesla stock. And so the data is a little old, but it's such a good story. It's fun to talk through. And this is, we have a new product called the AR data room. And this is an example of that, where someone can be remote. You see Leslie there dialing in from Los Angeles with Michael and Bill and I all in the same room, looking at the risk that has been caused by this performance of Tesla stock on this portfolio. Because the Tesla stock went through the roof, it means that it's now a much, it's at 15% of the portfolio, where it started at 5%. And since Tesla is so volatile, you probably don't want to have such a large exposure to that risk. So being able to walk a, in potentially wealthy person, this is a wealth management use case or registered investment advisor use case, being able to have them be able to see their portfolio in what is essentially a single visual model. Yes, we're stepping through a few steps and showing different aspects of it, certainly interacting with it in a way that everyone can see the same data at the same time. But building a single mental model of the information, having everybody able to reach out and click on it, to interact with it, to filter it, I think is been our vision for a long time, and to actually see it come to life finally after all of these years in such a powerful way is pretty exciting, and we're getting some pretty good cred for it. So questions about this AR data room concept or the co-located augmented reality experience?
This last video right here is exactly the new direction that you said Flow is gonna focus on, right? So
Yes.
these kinds of meetings and this kind of scene that brings people together to look at data and discuss and create solutions together, right? As in this presentation, you feel like this is happening already, so you feel like you're interacting with data, but the overall end of the meeting, you'll end up with new things for the model, or how you feeling that?
In this example, so we haven't started to talk about the AI impact yet. So in this example, we're more just showing this collaborative activity. But bringing AI into it gets you to another level of master and control and influence over what you're seeing. Yes.
It could be very well a pitch material, for example, for stakeholders or something like data analysis, not only on the market, but maybe like in some different, as you said, like portfolios of different investors. Maybe it could be used as a presentation to attract more investors or just rich people who need to see what's going on and in a simple and cohesive way.
Yeah, our potential bank customers are pretty hot on this particular use case. Because and let me just say another reason why it's interesting is it's a reason to gather. So if you're a registered investment advisor, you're looking for interesting ways that you can interact with your customers. Basically, the more face time you can get with client, I guess they would call them, the better it is for the overall relationship. And so to have an experience like this, where you would come into the bank, come into the office, and be able to put on a headset and have this data experience and understand your portfolio in this kind of way, is A, it's better to understand your data, but B, it's also have a powerful impact on your brand awareness and the sense that the end client will have that they're being taken care of, and that your organization is cutting edge and really using technology effectively. Okay, so let's switch to some of the new AI things. So I'm assuming people understand what we've already been doing in AI. which is a lot of which is around, let me just start sharing here. A lot of what we've been doing so far in AI is around what we call additional context. So you can click on a dot. This is back to your question, actually, Aaron. When you click on a dot, we know what dot you've clicked on. And so we can say, the end user can say, tell me about this, or tell me how this affected Mongolia, or tell me how this affected, the economics of, Buenos Aires. By clicking on a dot, we use that as the context, and then the AI can just respond with using the global corpus of information. And that is very effective. But in addition, you can upload your own PDF documents and then query against those documents. So that's already in the product today. And people are experimenting with that well and find that really interesting. In addition, there is so what we've been working on more recently is more of the work around just speaking to the flow to manipulate it. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on the audio here and just play a little bit of this video.
Just start to play with it. Add labels based on country.
Did you hear the audio okay?
Go. What's a label?
So the labels just appeared because I just
only show me the top 10 labels per country based on life expectancy.
So here I want to show specific labels. Show me the top 10 labels based on life expectancy.
Okay, so it didn't get the per country, but it is showing me the labels on the highest life expectancies across the different dots here. Put population on the height axis. That worked. Put life expectancy on the width axis. That did. Life expectancy per country. So, kind of interesting to lose time. Put the year on the width axis. Okay, went back to that. Put life expectancy on the depth axis. There we go. Interesting 3D structure here. Add connections based on country.
So the big picture here is we're moving more and more of the flow editor.
Filter to show me Northern Africa. Okay, did not quite get that one.
I asked it to do Northern
Filter
Africa.
to show me only Northern Africa.
But think about what it's actually having to do to make this work, right? So I'm just saying things like show me. In fact, I'm pretty much saying show me on every one of these. So it knew that Northern Africa wasn't a country, but a region. It knew that it needed to create a filter in order to display it. When I say show me connections, it knows that a connection is line connections that connect up all these dots. When I say, show me only 1900 to 1920, it knows that those are years and creates the correct filter on the right. I mean, it's still kind of mind-blowing to me that it can infer so much from so few words that in what it's doing here. I think that's quite wild.
Okay, it got that, but
the labels aren't perfect today.
No, it didn't get the filter quite right.
Okay, so I can tell it to do other things as well, like.
Okay, so it doesn't seem to be recognizing my question to ask what I can change.
Oh, one of the things you can do is
hide
also
the
ask it, what can
connections.
I change? And it pops up a window. In this case, I told it to add a legend, and it popped one up.
Make the font size on the labels bigger.
So it's not perfect. It's showing a whole bunch of the maximum value labels, and instead of doing the per country little bit, but those are just refinements. This is literally, I just recorded this last night, so you could see the current status of what's possible. You can here I asked it, what can I change? So it says you can change, color customization, chart resizing, things like that.
Size adjustment. Make the dots 50% bigger.
It's a little hard to see here because they're black, but they actually do get bigger.
What's the pink indication? Like light green is Latin America and the Caribbean?
Yeah, so right. The colorization was in the original swarm that I started with.
Make the dots 50% bigger.
We created like greens are Europe and blues are
Make the dots 50% bigger.
I just put them in various color buckets and then a little bit of variation for each country.
Okay, we got it that time.
So it did make the dots bigger. I know you can't tell, but
set the color to white.
And we haven't built out the full capabilities for palette creation.
Make the dots 90% smaller.
Okay, I'm gonna stop there. That gives you, I'm sure that gives you a sense of it, and I'm interested in your guys' feedback and questions and comments.
Yeah, the data is awesome. Like you can see, well, it requires some training to be able to request numbers and to see some, patterns in numbers and what's going on. But it's like really interesting to see what's happening. Like here we see that there are two regions with a high population. Everywhere we see the trend that the life expectancy is increasing. And I was thinking, like, in terms of statistics, like when do you register life expectancy? Is it when people die? So like the long-term connections, like they might have lag and you want to know what's going on, like based on some events, like having context, as you said. Like this is really awesome. I just like watching it, and I was wondering what's going on in the chart, and like how could that be used in various spheres. Like maybe you could talk to, I think a lot of politicians, they're not always, they don't always realize what's going on, the real situation based on, I don't know, they should operate numbers, but it never hurts to have something more explicit, so that way you can convince people to act faster and to see what's the spectrum of risks. For example, for AI, the risks could be high, for example, and we want to make sure that we convey information as fast as possible, as in clear way as possible too.
Yes, couldn't agree more. I was speaking at an event at Meta the other day, and I started my talk by saying, it's my opinion that humanity has some problems, and that anecdotes aren't the way to solve those problems anymore. We need to make really good data decisions, and how do we do that? And the rest of my presentation will describe what we feel is a way to help solve problems in the world, problems in our organization, problems at our PTA meeting. How do we help people make decisions based on reality instead of just made up stories or real stories? But even the real stories don't have the impact the way that data does. Of course, video, there's a lot of other ways to impact people. There's a lot of emotional ways, but we do think so. And in this case, you also asked, how do you calculate life expectancy? It's kind of a well-known calculation based on current, as of the date, how long would that individual expect to live? And so you can see, Japan has the highest life expectancy in the world by far. The United States has a dropping life expectancy, especially since COVID. in the world, which is pretty unusual. Most of the rest of the world has done better, but it's a really, if there's a single one number that you can gauge a society's success, yeah, I would call it, I think life expectancy is that single number.
Yeah, level of happiness is a good factor, actually. America is just number 15 in the level of life country, I mean, list of countries. Well, Denmark, Dubai, actually, and some other countries, like the progressive kind of, new countries, or old countries, they try to demonstrate this, openness to science and to numbers and all sorts of things. And it's really interesting that they started having like official government bodies for calculating happiness, the level of happiness, the medical, social
Sounds like a good flow. We should build one.
That's what I'm asking. I'm interested. How do I, present numbers? Because I just have a collection of data and like different references to different studies, but mostly I've seen them on the news. It could be very well fake or something like that. It's such a difficult choice today to collect data because it could be manipulated because people don't have capacity and maths, mastery to calculate and be able to see the numbers the way they are, even without, visualization. So I think that we would not lie to ourselves if we made this, tool as an additional tool for learning, for maybe for education as well. Because kids, I hate text. I just, force myself to learn to read faster because I think like 2 times faster than I can read. So it's like a very ADHD, maybe reading problems, like dyslexia, you can't call it whatever, but it's just the way it's easier to absorb information and it's faster. We can make decisions much faster.
If we're not careful, I'm not going to wax into it right now, but some folks on the call have heard me wax about visual thinking, go on and on about being able, like, think about the hummingbird. It glances across an entire field and decides which flower to go to because it can see the whole picture all at once. And text is a linear process, and it takes a lot of time to go through that story. Of course, the story is very meaningful. I don't want to minimize that, but we have this massive visual cortex that can help us see insights instantaneously. And that's part of what we're building here, is to enable you to do that.
Very simple to explain. Our evolutionary process, like it's been longer since we got our eyes than we got our speech. The speech was like this much from our day 0 today into the past, and visual system was even present in like very, very primitive LUCA level organisms. And since then the visual system has been around for a longer time, and it's much more perfect in terms of reading the structure and symmetry and all sorts of different things, clues from nature as well.
Exactly. So I'm just pulling, you talked about, getting data. And so one of the things that I'll use this example as my step into our Flow AI data analysis tool. So this is an article, way back in July, but it set me on a whole path of finding data and using AI to manipulate it. So in this case, I'm looking at the New York Times. I can go ahead and search for the source of the data. Turns out that I've been there before, and daily surface air temperature. If I go through this, I can download this data, in this case as a JSON data instead of a CSV. Then what are you going to do with it, right? So
JSON format.
Exactly. So what I've been doing is using Chat GPT's code interpreter, which they have renamed to be advanced data analysis, to manipulate this data. I have a YouTube on our YouTube channel, which walks you through this entire process of this particular use case using that tool. But what's new, and so first of all, this is a way to find the data you need, but then you need to process it. So what I'm going to show next is the very ugly, but basically functional system in our own app. We are so close. The UI is there. It's just not quite wired up in the app quite yet. So I couldn't demo it inside the app for you. But this is our little test environment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a CSV file. So this will be a superstore or Nuco, I call it. So it's just a CSV file of sales and profit data. So we upload that, it gives you a sense of what it is. And I can say something like aggregate sales by month. And what it's doing is writing the Python code to process the file. So the AI isn't looking at the file itself. Which if it did that, it would be incredibly slow and it might hallucinate and all kinds of potential problems. So instead, the system generates the Python code, executes it in a secure sandbox, so you can't, corrupt your server or do nasty things, and spit out the results. And here is, looks like the end. It decided to use the end of every month, the sales aggregation. It's just showing you a preview of those of the whole data set instead of showing you the entire thing. And this either replaces or becomes a new data set within Flow automatically. And you can then visualize it and see it. Very simple example, but the processing, very often you will want to go back and forth. You need a whole UI for it to say, hey, what do you mean by this, that, and the other thing? So maybe let me try that again. I'll just say aggregate by month. I'll even misspell it and it'll probably still figure it out. Okay, so this time I left off the word sales. So what's it going to do? Let's find out. It's going to generate a data set that's going to be not quite right.
Yeah, it's really
Go
cool.
ahead.
Is it ChatGPT Drive that is used, inside Flow? I was just wondering, with AI, is it integrated? Like, is it installed? Is it embedded into the system and it works on your databases basically, or does it have requests to ChatGPT or like some other AI tools that could be external? Because I think ChatGPT is used in so many places, and like a lot of programs, they start having plugins like Stable Diffusion and then Canva, like on all sorts of different visualization is also very much impacted by AI as well right now. So startups, they start every day.
You're asking exactly the right questions, and I actually, before you joined in, described exactly the architecture that's used, which is just the 2 senses on that is this is all server side. Our client, which is what you see when you're in headset or you're looking at the browser, our client is talking to our server which then decides which language model to use. Right now, we're just been using ChatGPT's 3.5 and 4.0, but you could swap in different language models. So all of that's happening on our server, and then our server is calling the API to those language models and then returning it back to the server and finally back up to the client. So the AI is not running directly on the client, and everything is well sandboxed for security.
Yeah, awesome. We live in we stepped into the 4th technological revolution, like clouds and all this information, because I would imagine that it is worth embedding these complex systems like AI architectures, like AI running codes into your it's Python, right? Like from what I remember, it's still Python. And when you embed it into your system, it's worth it if it costs basically more, right, to have these requests. But I think ChatGPT and like other AI, they're pretty open and pretty democratized, which is a cool concept in my opinion. And it's really cool. It means that it's not that costly, right, to send requests and aggregate information, and it's still really really quick.
The important thing is that you can use different models based on what you're doing. So like for edit presentation, right now we're still using ChatGPT, but we really don't need to do that. We could do that with a very small llama model, and it probably work just as well and save a lot of money in the long term. Right now we don't have tons of users, so it's fine, but pick the language model that for the task is a really interesting test. So you can see here, it aggregated the data. So in, for the, I'm not sure what it looks like, it added the latitudes and longitudes and
Yeah.
and things, which is not appropriate. And then even the state, right? It just tacked them all into a single row. So in that case, we absolutely do need this kind of an interface, and we will need it in headset as well. That pop-up, we have a pop-up window, which you guys have probably already seen in AI. That pop-up window will show you some of these tables to give you a sense of what the processing did, and you can verify whether it did it right or not, and then go back and check it. It also sometimes writes code with mistakes, and it will, when it runs its Python code, it sees that it got an error and it will try to correct itself. And if it can't, it'll come back and ask you for more information. So it's not entirely magic like the movies. You still need to have a feedback loop, but we have built that feedback loop into the system.
Awesome. Yeah, it's just in its baby steps, and it's at the same time surprising that it takes so long, but at the same time you think, wow, we are in the future. It's just a slow process, and it has like a large cycle, and that's why we were not aware of where exactly is our space in, we know our place in planet, but we don't know, globally in our universe what's going on and where we're heading. We're at the end of times, if you think about it. In 5 million years, we're going to be dead.
Speaking of the end of time, we're about at the last few minutes. So, Aaron, how can we get a working user account on the platform? So, best way is to contact Bill or myself. I'm at jason@flow.gl, and Bill is bill@flow.gl. I'll just put that into the chat. We haven't disabled, but we've just made it a little bit harder to go through the self-serve process, since we've been, working more for large, trying to land large organizations to help fund the business. But absolutely happy to have anybody jump on and yeah. So, Aaron, so the AI was not on our production server in July when you last looked. It's been on a production server 4 or 5 weeks now. And so you can use the existing AI before we get to the new stuff I was just showing. If you would like to try it on the headsets, also ping us, and you can find the Flow app on SideQuest, and it will eventually be on Meta's App Lab and a bunch of other environments as well. But we can also get you set up to do the beta testing on our Unity-based native app as well. Questions? You guys are a great audience. I'm so glad you've all joined me here for an hour.
Yeah, can I start as the most active user speaker? Not questions, but gratitude. Thank you very much. I just enjoy watching the progress. It's like so pleasant. I'm not involved in the process itself, but that's why coming back once in a while is just a wonderful opportunity to feel like you're in the future already. So yeah, thanks a lot. And I keep thinking about the skills that I could develop, accordingly to match the trajectory of the changes in the world, and to get into education and the positive change, flux and channels of information and money and all sorts of things. Hopefully to be there. So yeah.
There are some very interesting education use cases, and we do have some education users that we're actually really excited about. We don't spend too much time selling to that market because it's not a way to make money, but it is I think it's really impactful.
Yeah.
But Ozzy, let's see if other people have some questions here, since we're at the end of time.
I just want to quickly congratulate you, because I've been seeing before the whole AI revolution and how this is affecting Flow, and it's really cool that you're directing how to easily crunch data, easily visualize data, right? And that is the whole focus of it, and easy to talk about it. So I'm really glad how this is going. Congratulations, guys.
But I think that it helps solve some of the biggest friction points to using Flow. And we'll see if that, now that these things are coming out, we'll see if my analysis is correct. But manipulating the data has been hard, and the Flow editor has been hard for people to learn So
Yeah.
it's so complex. So
And,
totally agree,
and
Julian.
it's always that set of skills that we need to have, right? Yesterday we need to have like Python knowledge and really understanding the whole way of data analysis that is really a whole subject out of it all, and not only focus on the questions that you want to do to the data, right? What we can learn with this, or what directions we can take on. So this is great news. Congratulations.
I realized I didn't really mention that the kinds of manipulations you can ask the Flow AI to do are actually insane. It's insane. You can actually, do machine learning models. And it's, standard deviations and combine different data sets. It's really quite dramatic what's possible with that. I didn't really show it very much. Thanks, Lawrence. Aaron, Meta just contacted me about AI research and data viz. Would we consider an acquisition to Meta? Well, let's talk. Don't know how else to answer that, but happy to have a conversation. Laura, did you have any questions or impressions? You've been seeing Flow on its journey for a little while here as well.
Yeah, sorry, I just also wrote in the chat. I now have to jump to my next meeting, but I'm really, really excited about your updates. Also, the work on AI is really exciting, and of course, with now the app on the Quest Store, I'm really looking forward to try it out. Also in VR, or hopefully soon in also AR.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm really excited what we can work on together and create the next flows together. So I'm stay in conversation with Bill. And yeah, so thank you very much. Was very cool to see.
Great. Let's go make some great stuff together that can help change the world.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, Laura.
Bye.
Right. And anyone is free to go if they would like. I'm going to ask Martin how he's doing because I didn't get to say hello to him.
Hello, I'm good. I didn't spend much time on Flow, but I did some very slight project. But I need to play a little bit more with it, especially with the new AI functions.
Do you have any flows, you and Julian, do you have any flows on the AI server that we should pull off? Because we're thinking about decommissioning that as we just move everything. Everything's already been moved over to a.flow.geo.
I'll take a look and send you an email, I guess. But not, they are all, for me, all experiments. So I don't know.
The same for me. You can kill them. I didn't spend that much time in it. I can rebuild it in the new one.
Certainly, Julian, you'll see that your historical figures flow is one of our featured flows and a very popular one. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, that one actually, that one is on the AI server in a complete.
It's already moved over.
Well, okay.
It's moved over and edited, and it's one of our featured flows on the on our production server on a.flow.geo.
Yeah.
The students, the education loves that one, where you can just basically, I'm not going to do the full demo now, but you can go see it. Ozzy, you'll like it. Click on any dot and ask the AI, tell me about yourself, or tell me why you love music, or tell me, what was your inspiration for XYZ. And it's fascinating. You can ask Einstein, what do you think about, quantum physics, and get his opinion, and he'll respond in his own voice. It's very cool. Very cool flow.
Yeah, it was amazing to work on it. Yeah. And that's one of the possibilities that we're learning together, right? So I'm crazy to see the next steps of it.
For sure. Michelle, any comments or questions? I know you were driving and I see where you're going and dropped off and came back again. Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was stopped by the German custom police when I crossed the border. that was fun. Very interesting. Thank you. I think I'll send you an email so maybe we can organize a meeting so I can go a bit deeper because I couldn't follow everything. I have a ton of questions, but it definitely looked very, very interesting.
Thank you, sir. Did you see our emails on the chat there? You all set? Or
Yeah,
if you
no
want to
worries.
give
I'm
me-
fine.
Okay, or you can give me your email and we'll make sure to follow up if you're still in the car.
Yeah. My email is very simple. It's michele.zilli, so my name and surname, at tuitui.com.
TUTUI.
TUI.
Just say it again, please.
TUI. TUI.
TUI. That's it. TUI.com. Okay.
Yep.
Michelle spelled the same way I see it spelled on the or is it Michele? How do I say it?
It's Michele. It's Italian, but
Michele.
no worries. I'm easy.
Thank you, Michele. Okay, got it. We'll keep in touch as well. Thanks for joining, Ozzy. So great to see and hear from you, Julian, Martine. Happy to chat anytime. Everybody, you guys know, just ping me. We'll jump on a call anytime you want, and love to go in more detail anywhere you'd like. So excited to have you guys with us on this journey. So thank you again.
Hey, nice seeing you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.